All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we are going to get weird. We're diving into one of the most radical, out there visions for alien life I have ever come across. I want you to forget everything you know about life powered by the sun. We're unplugging from photosynthesis and carbon and plugging straight into a world that runs on raw, unfiltered electricity. And it all kicks off with a starship that's, well, it's less of a machine and more of a living thing. So get this. Forget your sleek metallic starships. Forget biological creatures as we know them. The starting point for this whole journey is a starship that's best described as a living, breathing circuit board. Just let that image sink in for a second. This isn't a machine that was built by life. This is a machine that is life. So how would that even work? Well, let's look at its anatomy. The hull, it isn't just a shell. It's a living capacitor built to store a truly massive electrical charge. Its engines are basically clusters of specialized cells, acting like biological batteries on some cosmic motherboard. And instead of wires, it has these plasma veins pulsing with energy, moving it, cooling it, even letting it talk. It's a true hybrid, part organism, part machine. And that's the million-dollar question, right? A starship that is itself an organism sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But the concept is actually grounded in some fascinating speculative biology that doesn't start in the vacuum of space. Nope. It starts on the surface of a very, very strange planet. Okay, so the whole idea, the secret sauce, hinges on a totally different source of energy. I mean, think about it. Instead of life evolving to capture these faint little photons from a distant sun, what if it evolved to tap into a much more direct, much more powerful source? What if it could harness the flow of electrons right from the planet itself? See, over on the left, that's us. That's Team Earth. Life here is basically like a giant water wheel powered by sunlight. But on the right, that's a living circuit. Here, the energy source isn't light, it's electrical potential, literally the difference in charge between the ground and the sky. The mechanism isn't photosynthesis, it's something way cooler, called electron capture. So what is electron capture? Well, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's life evolving to pull electrons straight out of its environment. I want you to imagine organisms literally plugging themselves into mineral veins in the ground or trailing these long filaments up into the clouds to catch lightning bolts and then using that raw charge to power their metabolism. It's wild. Okay, so if an entire planet runs on electricity, what do the inhabitants look like? Well, you can throw out your ideas of plants and animals. You don't really get those in the traditional sense. What you get are producers, consumers, and decomposers that are all basically components in a planet-sized electrical grid. This ecosystem has all the familiar roles, but with this amazing electrical twist. So the primary producers aren't plants, they're lithivores and aerovoltics that tap directly into the planet's power grid. And the consumers, they're not predators like we think of them. They're electro-vampires that steal that charge. It's a world where every single organism is a component in a living, functional circuit. So let's talk about how the power gets into the system in the first place. You've got these lithivores, which are kind of like a metallic moss, just covering the plains and literally drawing power up from the ground. In the oceans, you've got electroplankton that form these living, current-carrying chains. And then way up high, you've got these amazing aerovoltics that float like biological balloons, fishing for lightning. And this is the core of how the food web works. The consumers, like the electrovampires on the plains or these gliders in the sky, they don't hunt to eat biomass. They hunt to steal potential. A successful predator leaves its victim's body totally intact, but it's completely drained of energy, just like a dead battery. So here's the really crucial point. This isn't just a collection of weird creatures running around. The entire biosphere is interconnected. It forms a single, integrated circuit. Life here doesn't just adapt to the weather. It actively channels and shapes it, directing lightning strikes and managing the whole planet's electrical flow. It's incredible. So if the entire planet is functioning as a single electrical organism, what's the ultimate expression of that evolution? What happens next? Well, this is where we see that planetary ecosystem become a full-blown interstellar engine. We see this amazing evolutionary leap across every single function, and it starts with how it feeds, right? So on its homeworld, life evolved to just kind of drift through the atmosphere, grazing on ambient charge from storms and dust particles. And the Starship does the exact same thing, just on a cosmic scale. It parks itself inside the magnetic field of a gas giant to recharge its entire system. like a blue whale gulping down a massive cloud of krill. Same idea, bigger scale.
We see the same principle with movement. So back on the planet, you've got these eel-like creatures called coils. They build up a charge and then they release it in a controlled burst to propel themselves through the conductive oceans.
And now check this out. The Starship scales that up into charge jet thrusters. It's the exact same principle, but instead of pushing against water, it's expelling these controlled bursts of plasma to move through space and get up to interstellar speeds. And finally, communication. It follows the exact same pattern. So on the planet, organisms coordinate with each other by sending synchronized electrical pulses back and forth, kind of like fireflies flashing in unison, but, with electricity. In space, this becomes lightning conversations. I mean, how cool is that? Two of these living ships can overlap their magnetic fields and exchange really complex information through pulsed arcs of lightning. Their language is literally the shape and the frequency of the sparks themselves. So, and this is the absolute key takeaway from all of this, the Starship isn't a vehicle built by these creatures. It is them. It's what happens when a planetary-scale integrated circuit evolves to the point where it can leave the planet entirely. The ecosystem becomes the engine. Now, this whole thought experiment isn't just a cool sci-fi concept. It actually forces us to ask a really, really important question about our own search for life out there in the universe. And that question is, what if we're looking for all the wrong things? Seriously, think about it for a second. We scan these distant atmospheres for the chemical fingerprints of life as we know it. Things like oxygen and water vapor and methane. But a world like the one we've just explored, it would have none of that. It would be completely, utterly invisible to our current methods. The biosignatures of a living circuit would be so much stranger. We'd have to look for lightning that flashes in coherent patterns, not random ones. We'd have to look for planets with bizarre electrical currents that just can't be explained by natural weather. For all we know, we might have already seen signals like this and just dismissed them as, instrumental noise or some weird plasma thing. And ultimately, this whole idea leads us to a broader, and I think much more profound definition of what life even is. Maybe it isn't just about carbon and water. Maybe life is just the spark that flows when matter finds a gradient, any gradient, and just refuses to decay quietly into equilibrium. On Earth, that energy comes from the sun. But elsewhere, it could be a raw electrical charge, a heat differential, or something we can't even begin to imagine. It really forces us to wonder, how many other sparks are out there, dancing in ways we just haven't learned to see yet?